With the recent announcement of Borderlands 3 and several trailers out for Rage 2, it looks like we could get two Mad Max-style first-person shooters in 2019. One comes from a questionable 7-year-old series and the other tried and true. But only one seems to have made a generational visual leap into its new sequel. Hey, this is Colt Eastwood. I'm going to give you my disclaimer before we get started. I am a fan of the Rage series despite common complaints, and a huge fan of the Borderlands series. We're going to compare the improvements of both games, and I'll leave it up to you. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notified when I put out new content, and that's about once a week. Okay, let's take a look at the evolution of Rage and Borderlands. Rage and Borderlands 2 are both 7 to 8 years old. Both are a Mad Max post-apocalyptic first-person shooter with dune buggy vehicle combat in an open hub world. But this is mostly where the similarities start to divide. Rage uses a very minimalist RPG mechanic, while Borderlands spreads RPG elements throughout the character and the weapons. But visually, Rage, even back 8 years ago, went for a semi-realistic presentation, while Borderlands uses a cel-shaded art style. Questions arise when, after waiting 7 years for Borderlands to return and hearing Gearbox tease an all-new engine for next generation for the past year, and seeing the new trailer for Borderlands 3 in 2019, and the visual style is very similar to what we enjoyed back in 2012. The first Borderlands game was stylish and fresh, but drab in comparison to the explosive colors and detail brought upon by the improvement in Borderlands 2 at the end of the Xbox 360 and PS3 generation. Here, the Borderlands 3 trailer looks very similar to Borderlands 2, with more on screen, more features, and new characters. The cel-shaded art style returns with a bit of extra detail and texture work. You may have been expecting updated character models, maybe more realistic features with the same hold to the Borderlands feel we love. Maybe you have a certain expectation of how visuals should evolve after 7 to 8 years. Let's take a look at Rage and Rage 2. Rage is an id game and already looked fantastic in 2011. Even on weak last generation consoles, it ran at 60 FPS. Rage also boasted super textures instead of traditional texture tiling, so rock faces didn't repeat throughout the world. Already in 2011, Rage visually looked better than Borderlands 1 and the upcoming Borderlands 2. But at a cost. Rage is far more cramped and limited in scope compared to the massive Borderlands series. Enter Rage 2 in 2019. The game trades the stilted, stiff gunplay of 2011 for a fluid, id-evolved Wolfenstein/Doom first-person shooter feel. The open world in Rage 2 leaves the smaller canyons behind for a wide open landscape. The buggy has much more detail, and bloom lighting throughout makes Rage 2 shine at its targeted 60 FPS on mid-generation consoles. The shooting sections pop with color, particles, and new power that show a marketed improvement over a few gadgets that were in Rage in 2011. A solid, undeniable upgrade in the sequel. That is, until we get to the character models. In Rage 1, they were stiff and lifeless by today's standards, but here in Rage 2 in 2019, they look comically cringeworthy. Lip syncing and awkward facial construction proves id foregoed facial capture for traditional 3D modeling, and it is one of the only things that makes this 2019 sequel improvement questionable. Here is Rage 1 and Rage 2 side by side, showing how both games look remarkable. The top is Rage on the Xbox 360 unenhanced at around 720p 60, and Rage 2 on the new consoles at 1080p 60. Driving in the new game looks even more impressive and freeform, but the scale of the vehicle and the open world makes Rage 2 an obvious upgrade. Borderlands 3's trailer showed us much of what we wanted to see, more great Borderlands for loot-hungry gamers that may have felt shortchanged from the likes of Destiny, The Division, and Anthem over the years. But small changes were made to make Borderlands 3. Looking at the trailer, things we may have already tried in the pre-sequel, which was made off-site. Here is Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3 trailers side by side. One from 2012 and the other from 2019. Obviously, there have not been wholesale changes to the visual style or many noticeable upgrades that portray the new graphics engine worked on over the past 5 years. Character models and even Claptrap have a bit more detail, but the best compliment here is that Borderlands 3 has more detail and stays true to what we expect to see and play. But is it enough for that 7-year waiting period? If Borderlands 1 to Borderlands 2 was a true upgrade, some would say that Borderlands 3 could pass as an expansion from 2012 visually. Again, we are not seeing the whole picture with a first take trailer held back at 30 FPS when the game should be running near 4K 60 FPS on the Pro and the X. Several popular mainstream gaming sites are not pleased with the lack of an eye-popping visual upgrade for Borderlands 3, while the majority of fans of the series are happy that they are getting a brand new game they've loved for years. Borderlands the pre-sequel was Borderlands 2 with jetpacks and laser guns. Fans of Borderlands are excited to see a visual jump akin to 2009's Borderlands to the sequel in 2012. To be fair, we haven't seen enough of Borderlands 3 except for this high-clip trailer with 50 plus cuts spanning familiar wastelands and a fresh new futuristic cityscape. Looking at Rage 2 and Borderlands 3 side by side, the presentation at 1080p 60 versus 4K 30 FPS with a flat shaded Borderlands shows to the untrained eye that Rage 2 is the visual powerhouse. This can be expected coming from the talent of a 30-year pedigree of id, the people that brought us Doom, but Rage 2 is a run and gunner with a handful of Force-like powers and a short list of preset weapons. While Borderlands 3 offers hard-hitting gameplay with multiple powers, gadgets, and a bazillion guns. Rage 2 comes out this May, and Borderlands 3 is set to release at the end of this year. So definitely there is room for both games in your life. The takeaway here is that when you develop a sequel to push your game forward, bring something new to your fans. It is expected to grace the audience with an impression of the familiar mixed with an element of surprise and wonder of a fresh, improved version of the series we've grown to love. Content, quality, and the experience is king over any metric of visuals as long as the game feels next level. And after seeing Rage turn into Rage 2 and Borderlands into a third, will both Rage 2 and Borderlands 3 bring these new games into true sequels? But what do you think? Did a new engine and 5 years in the Bandit oven allow a third Borderlands to become a true improvement over the last? This is Colt Eastwood. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, let me know and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow and continue the discussion, add me on Xbox Live and Twitter at Colt Eastwood. Like I said at the beginning, I'm a big Borderlands fan, and I even enjoyed the pre-sequel quite a bit. I'm sure we'll see more of Borderlands 3 at a higher fidelity, and we'll see more of the game's scope. We can make a better determination of how this game will turn out. Either way, it's going to be a fun ride with friends. Let me know in the comment section what you think of the evolution of Rage and Borderlands over this past 7 to 8 years, and while you're in that comment section, be nice.